Good evening, students. Uh, First of all, I welcome you all in sociology class in class 12th. So let's have a high spirit. So I want to tell you that we do not need to create any panic because we are left with so much of time, and keep your spirits high. So, uh, in this session, I am taking the second chapter of book 1, Sociology. The name of the book is Indian Society. So why I am name of the chapter is the demographic structure of Indian society. Now you must be wondering why I am taking this second chapter. It is because I'm taking this second chapter because of two reasons. The first reason is the first chapter of your book Indian Society is non-evaluative, so I suggest you all to not touch the first chapter. And the second thing important here is the first chapter is all what we have already studied in class 11, or in other words what I can say is it is the gist of what we have studied in class 11. So we do not need to brush up what we have studied, because um, I know that you all have studied well. So here I'm taking the second chapter. The name of the chapter is the demographic structure of Indian society. So I request you all, please keep your books with you and study them as well, and start making your notebooks. So here comes the first chapter, the demographic structure of Indian society. What all topics are following in this chapter are given as, so those topics which I have highlighted in blue, these are the topics which I am going to take in this session. Rest we are going to take up in the coming sessions. So what all topics are there in the chapter? These are demography, what is demography, its origin, meaning of demography, and what is its importance in sociology. The second topic which we are going to cover today, it is types of demography, varieties of demography. This includes the formal and the social demography. And the third topic is Malthusian theory of population growth. Fourth one is the theory of demographic transition. The fifth subtopic is common concepts and indicators. In this, what we are going to study about is the indicators and the concepts which are needed to understand the demography. The demographic studies has some common indicators, has some special indicators which help us to understand the population well. For example, birth rate, death rate, sex ratio, so that we can understand our population well. So the next topic is size and growth of India's population. Here we are going to study about what is the size of the India's population, what is the pattern of the growth of the India's population. So this is in this topic. Seventh one is the age structure of the Indian population. Now what is the age structure of the Indian population? This includes, here we are going to study about the composition of the population, that is male and female composition, also the different age groups, what is the composition of different age group, how they are contributing in the population differently. The next is the declining sex ratio in India. It is a topic which is important in sociology as well. What are the reasons for declining sex ratio in India? What is sex ratio and why it is declining in India? Why we are watching the pattern of declining sex ratio in India? What are the causes behind it? The backdrop of this. So another topic is literacy. So here we are going to study this literacy in a sociological way. So the next is rural urban differences. In this we are going to cover about the population which is of rural nature and the population which is of urban nature. So how these two different populations are, how these populations are different from each other. The next is population policy in India. What are the different population policies adopted in the India? So I'm taking the very first subtopic, demography. So meaning and origin. So what is demography? You must have heard this word earlier also. Now, in simple terms or in simple language, it means when we study the population in a systematic manner or systematic study of the population. So what does it mean, that systematic study of the population? Systematic study of the population means, for example, we have to study the, we use different methods, the statistical analysis, the datas, the statistics, the qualitative means to understand our population. It is we do, it is just not that we are understanding the population in a quantitative manner, but also what are the implications of the population or the quantity over the society, or how the culture is affecting a particular population, a particular quantity. So what we are going to study in this is the, we are going to, when while studying the population, we are going to apply the methods, different methods, for example statistical analysis, to understand the population. Now the term demography is of Greek origin and it's composed of two words, demos, as you have already studied this word. Demos means people, and the graphene, so means describe. So collaborating these two words, it's simple that it is the description of the people. So what does demography studies do? So demography studies the trends and processes associated with the population, including changes in population size. What I said, it is the systematical study of the population. So we study the population size. What is the size of the population? What are the patterns of the births? What are the patterns of the deaths? Are the birth rate high? Is the birth rate low? Is the death rate high? Is the death rate low? What are the reasons for this? What are the consequences for this? And the migration also. Is the migration to this locality is high within the society, or people are moving outside in more numbers? So it all is included in the demographic studies. So it also study the structure and composition of the population. What I have already talked about, the age, the different age groups are have been studied in this. For example, we study those people who are dependent, we study those who are the young people, we study those who are the comes under the working population. Now, such as the relative proportion of women, men, and different age group. Now, varieties of demography or forms of demography. So what I can say is, demography is of two types. The first is formal demography and the second is social demography, or social demography can also be termed as population studies. So it is of two types. The first is formal demography and the second one is social demography. So here comes the first one, the formal demography. Now what is formal demography? Look, what we study in the formal demography, we just study the quantitative data. It is the quantitative field. It is the way we collect the data. Okay, we are not inferring anything from the data. We are just quantifying that data. It is called the formal demography. Demography. For example, total population of an area. Okay, the sex ratio of this area. Okay, but we are just getting the quantity out of that. We are not inferring anything from that. Okay, right. Okay. The second thing is social demography. Now what is social demography? Look, this is important here. It has a sociological importance. Social demography, it focuses on the society, the qualitative aspect of the society. What kind of society you are having? For example, in formal demography, if we study that in a locality A there are 100 people, So that is the quantitative data available with us. Now we are not studying the quality of the population. Now, are these 100 people literate or not? How many of them are literate? So if we get to know that 80% of these are literate, so what can we infer? We can infer the quality of that society. What can we infer? These are the indicators which help us to know that it could be possible, because the people are, the literacy rate is higher, so that the more of the people would be contributing in economic institutions or economy. So ultimately that in the economy of this locality A would be higher. Okay, so this is the way, after taking that quantitative field, to analyze that quantity in a qualitative manner. It is called social demography, which tells us about the real quality of the society. So it is called the social demography. Now, whatever the demographic studies are, all these are based on, we can infer the quality only when we are having the data. If we are short of data or we are not having any data, we cannot infer anything. So all demographic studies are based on process of counting or enumeration. For example, census or the survey, which involved, what is census? It involved the systematic collection of data or the people residing within a specific territory. Talking about the survey, what you have conducted in your last class, so you are aware of this thing, that to conduct a survey, it's a way where you are collecting the data in a quantitative manner, but what you are inferring out of that data, that is the social demography. Here comes the importance of social demography. Hope you understood it all. So importance of demography in sociology. Look bacha, demography is important in sociology, because in sociology we study the society in a qualitative manner, in a quantitative manner. But what if we do not know how many people are residing in our society? And what if we are just taking a section of the people and not taking the rest? Would it give us the true characteristics of the society? So here comes the importance of the demography, that demography is important in sociology, because in order to understand the society, we need to know about its population, the quality of the population. So now, and also second point is, sociology owes its origin to demography, to demographical studies. How? Now we can relate this to our previous class topic, Durkheim's suicide. There in that topic, what we have studied about the social facts. What we studied about the social facts, and we have studied that Durkheim used the quantitative data for the establishment of the suicide studies. So in this manner, how we know that Durkheim is the founding father of the sociology. So here it becomes the truth. In fact, the emergence of sociology and its successful establishment as an academic discipline owed a lot to demography. Now, what happened? Why it was needed to have demographical studies? Two different processes happened to take place at roughly the same time in Europe during the latter half of the 18th century. Look, what happened in the latter half of the 18th century? There was the emergence of the nation states. So these were the principal forms of organizations emerged then. So it was just not the emergence of the nation state, it was also adopting the new mechanisms, the new methods to organize the society in a best possible way. So there was the starting point of the modern science of statistics. So this modern state started expanding its role and functions by analyzing, by understanding, and by organizing the society using this demographic data. This new and constantly expanding sphere of state activity required the systematic and regular collection of social statistics or quantitative data on various aspects of population and economy. In order to understand the relation of the population and economy, it was important, and their implications on each other. So it was important to have the demographical studies. Though the collection of social statistics is of older nature, but it acquired a modern nature in the end of the 18th century. So here we can see that the American census has started in the end of the 18th century, that is in 1790. And this started in Europe as well in 1800. In India, if we talk about the India, it started during the time of the Britishers between 1867 and 72, and after that regularly 10 yearly census, that is called the decennial census, was conducted, and since 1881 it became a regular practice. So independent India, talking about independent India, continued this practice of the of studying the population every 10 years. So this 7 decennial census have been conducted since 1951, and what you know is the recent being in 2011. Now in the Indian census is the largest such exercise in the world, because we are the largest democracy, does not conduct regular census. Now, demographic data are important for planning and implementation of the state policies. This we have already started, because without knowing the quantity and without knowing the quality of the population, how we are going to implement the policies, how we are going to draft the policies, because for a population locality A and locality B, locality A have more females, locality B have lesser females, so we need different policies for these two different region. So this is by knowing the demographic data only we can frame the policy. Now, sometimes a distinction is made between the formal demography and a broader field of population studies. This population studies is another name for the social demography. Now, a difference between formal demography and the social demography shown here. Formal demography is primarily what I have already said, that it deals with the quantitative data. So it is primarily concerned with the measurement and analysis of the components of population change. Its focus is on quantitative analysis, for which it has a highly developed mathematical methodology suitable for forecasting population growth and changes in the composition of population. Now, population studies or the social demography, on the other hand, it inquires into the quality or the wider causes and consequences of the population structure and change. What are the causes of the population change? Why the population is taking this type of trend? Why the ratio of the female is declining? Why the literacy rate is more in females or males, like this? So, social demographers believe that social processes, according to them, what are the causes for these trends are that social demographers believe that social processes and structures, what is your culture, what is your cultural structure, what is your economy, what is your political structure, all these structures regulate the demographic processes. Like sociologists, they seek to trace the social reason that account for the population trends. So that's all for the demography, the types of the demography, its importance in sociology, and what is the difference between the formal demography and the social population studies or social demography. So here I am starting with the next subtopic, the Malthusian theory of population growth. So, what is Malthusian theory of population growth? What I want to clarify here, or what I want to say here is, Malthusian was an English political economist. His name was Thomas Robert Malthus. He has given the theory of population growth in his essay on population in 1798. Now, in his theory, he has stressed on mainly two things, and student, you have to remember that he stressed on these two things. What are these two things? two aspects: the human population first, and the second is the human subsistence. Now whole of the theory revolves around these two things: human population and human subsistence. So what he said, he argued, according to him, that human population tend to grow at a much faster rate than the rate at which the means of subsistence. Now what is human subsistence? That means food, but also clothing and other agricultural based products. In simple terms, what I can say, roti kapda aur makan, that would be easy for us to understand. Now what he said, that human population will always surpass the human subsistence. If this is the case, then humans are, according to him, humanity is condemned to live in poverty forever, because human subsistence is always going to be low. So there could not be the match up between the subsistence and the human population. Now to support his argument, he has given another argument. What was this? He said population rises in geometric progression, which is given on the slide, and agricultural production, that is human subsistence, grow in uh, arithmetic progression. So what we know here is arithmetic progression is always greater, GP is always greater than AP, arithmetic progression. So according to him, population will always outgrow the human subsistence. So the humanity is condemned to live in poverty. The next thing he said, in order to control the human population, or to match up the subsistence and the human population, there should be checks. He talked about two checks: the preventive checks, these are the checks which are taken by the humans themselves, and according to him these are less effective. And the second checks he talked about was positive checks. Now these are the checks which are taken by the nature. What he said, nature has the ability to create a balance. So by means of different checks like famines, diseases, nature maintain its balance, and ultimately there is a balance between human subsistence and the population growth. So in the wake of coronavirus, though the virus has created the human because of the virus, the hue and cry has been created everywhere, but it can be categorized under positive checks. So now what are the preventive checks? Preventive checks are the checks which are taken by the humans. So humans by themselves, for example, the postponing marriage or practicing sexual abstinence or celibacy. So these are less effective, because we cannot force on every person residing there on planet earth. So this was the theory all about. What he talked about in the theory was, kya kya bola unhone, he talked about the human population growth, human subsistence, AP, GP, human population will always outgrow the human subsistence. Next he talked about the checks to control the population, the positive and the preventive checks. So it was, this is the theory all about. So but his theory met the criticism. Now the criticism is given as under, you can see on the slide. Malthus theory was influential for a longer time, but it has also challenged by theorists who claim that economic growth could outstrip population growth. Now during that time the theory was valid, but after some time it became invalidated, because it was seen that where the economic growth was higher, the it can outstrip the population growth. So here the first argument was refuted. The second argument was, during the industrial revolution, what was seen, the economic growth was seen. Also due to the economic growth, the education has grown, the literacy has grown, and people were aware of aware of this thing, that having lesser number of a child is a good lesser number of children is a good thing. So the birth rate rates declined, and also because of the infrastructure development in the healthcare, the outbreaks of the epidemics were being controlled. So here the preventive checks are became more effective than the positive checks. So here the argument was refuted again. The final argument was given by the Marxist scholars. As we know that Marxists are of this view that poverty is because of the unequal distribution of the resources. So here they stress on the same point that population growth is not the cause of the poverty, whereas the unequal distribution of the resources is the cause of the poverty. Because it was seen that the nations where economic growth surpasses the population growth, even at these places, even at these regions, uh, the people were lesser in number, the population was less, even then the poverty was seen. So what was the reason? It was because the unequal distribution of the resources. Now it can be supported with the argument that 80% of the world resources are used by the 20% of the population. So here I'm winding up this topic. So I hope you understood it all. Thank you all.